Hello everyone and welcome to this Death Trap build guide. My name is Varlin and we're going to go through how Death Trap functions and how to optimize its damage. I also have a full written guide over at maxroll.gg. I will have a link to it in the description below. First, we need to look at the synergies that make Death Trap the powerhouse we know and love. Death Trap naturally has a long cooldown as it is an ultimate skill. So we want to stack as much cooldown reduction as we can through various means, such as tempering on our jewelry and the new Season 9 gem, the Illuminate Eye. However, even with max cooldown reduction, we get stuck at 12.6 seconds cooldown. The only way we can reduce the cooldown further is by adding more ranks to Death Trap. We do this through Scoundrel's Leathers, as it adds the core skill tags to all of our traps. This allows us to stack sources of core skill ranks to further reduce the cooldown of our Death Trap. We can get Death Trap below 10 seconds cooldown by stacking any combination of Harlequin's Crest, Air of Perdition, Ring of Starless Skies, Vex Rune, Vehement Brawler, and Ordinary Gloves with core ranks. To reach 10 seconds, we need a total of 13 ranks of Death Trap. The reason we need Death Trap below 10 seconds cooldown is because we can easily get 150 maximum energy, which makes our class specialization preparation reduce our ultimate cooldown by 10 seconds. With the help of the unique effect on Beastfall Boots, we spend our entire energy globe each time we cast Death Trap, which immediately resets our cooldown. However, spending all of the energy from casting Death Trap does not help if we can't also restore it after each cast. For this, we use the Aftermath passive combined with the Energy Restore on Beastfall Boots to gain 150 energy each cast. As you can see in the footage, we never have 100% energy. This is because every time you cast Death Trap, your energy is immediately restored, but then consumed by Beastfall Boots again, meaning that you are always at 0 energy even though you're resetting Death Trap like you should. This is actually good and bad at the same time. It's good because it allows us to use a normally otherwise unusable passive in the form of haste. Haste gives us attack speed when we are below 50% energy. But it also makes it difficult to use the Quacks rune, which is a massive multiplier, because Quacks looks at the energy you had when it was procced and gives you a damage buff accordingly. We can't really utilize Quacks properly unless you're pushing very high pits and using energy restore on weapon. This is not recommended for the general build because it will not trigger enough lucky hits when enemies are dying instantly. Getting the required core ranks can be difficult, so you can instead stack maximum energy through an affix on your helmet, Beastfall Boots, galvanized aspects, and an elixir until you get 174 maximum energy. With our key passive Momentum multiplying your maximum energy by 30%, you would end up with 225 energy. This makes preparation reset your Death Trap cooldown by 15 seconds instead of 10 seconds, allowing for fewer ranks in your core skills to reach the permanent reset stage. This is less damage, but it makes it possible to get your build going earlier. The final functionality worth mentioning is that the more attack speed you have, the more important the affix trap arm time reduction becomes. If you don't have this, you will attack so quickly that your Death Trap will not finish arming before the 3 Death Trap at the same time limit has been reached. To avoid this, you can use the Paragon node called Spring Loaded in combination with either Legendary Pants with trap arm time reduction on it, or Eyes in the Dark if you prefer that option. As long as you have either, you are fine and you don't have to worry about this at all. Your rotation changes depending on what type of content you're doing. When you're speed farming something like Nightmare Dungeons or the Undercity, you only need to press dash followed by Death Trap on repeat to rapidly traverse the map and kill everything in your way. Dash has a forced cooldown of 0.5 seconds, which is reset with Death Trap, but it can feel a bit clunky at times. It is always good to spend a few seconds early on when you're entering new content to dash around as much as possible, as this stacks up your momentum key passive until you return to town. In content where your enemy lives a bit longer, you want to use Caltrops, followed by Poison Trap, followed by Smoke Grenade, as the damage bonus from Caltrops needs to ramp up slowly over time. Make sure that you use these abilities as soon as they're about to fall off for maximum damage efficiency. We also want to use concealment to make our death trap apply vulnerable status to enemies on each attack. In pit pushing, this changes and you can read about it in our written guide over at maxroll.gg. After you have used Caltrops, Poison Trap, and Smoke Grenade, you dash away from the enemy and cast Death Trap from a distance. You do this due to the Dead Eye passive, but you can stay in melee range if you prefer at the cost of 30% damage. Season 9 reduced the effectiveness of Overpower, which means we are no longer stacking maximum life like we did in Season 8. This means that understanding the defensive part of the Death Trap build is vital to your success. In order to survive, we combine big barriers in the form of Second Wind and Bottled Wind. Because we spend more than 100 energy with each Death Trap, we constantly gain a 45% maximum life barrier, which each Death Trap costs. We also cast our Catalyst every 5.3 seconds, meaning we frequently have a big barrier from Bottled Wind. On top of this, we utilize the skill Dark Shroud for damage reduction. There are 3 ways of applying this massive damage reduction to yourself: manual casting, the Umbrous Aspect, and the Mott Rune. All of these ways comes with pros and cons. Manual casting means you can use 2 damage runes, such as Zan and Quacks, for more damage. However, this means your Dark Shroud stacks are likely below the maximum of 5, making your damage per Dark Shroud tempers and damage reduction less effective unless you spam Dark Shroud. You also have to either drop Concealment, which gives you unstoppable and vulnerable application, or Dash, which is the only mobility you have. Overall, this is not a bad option, but it can be very spammy. The Umbrous Aspect means you don't have to worry about Dark Shroud at all, but it means you have to drop either Eyes in the Dark or the Damage Aspect on your amulet due to the limited aspect slots in this build. This is a decent option for general content where you're already overkilling things. The Mott Rune is another good option as it makes you generate a Dark Shroud stack when you cast Death Trap, which happens very frequently. The main consequence of this is that you lose out on a offensive rune, which is a damage loss of anywhere between 20 and 100% depending on the rune choice. Due to the guide being updated frequently based on new testing and ideas, head over to a written guide over at maxroll.gg to see the latest Paragon path and the skill tree used, as well as whatever uniques and aspects that I'm using in this build. Thank you for watching this long explanation of how Death Trap works. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye!